Good morning, all. Welcome to DIAN India Meeting 4. I'm Vijaya Matt. I'm the country head for Community Business India. DIAN India is a leading network of companies and professionals committed to advancing diversity and inclusion in the workplace and beyond. Um, Through all our meetings and regular interactions and connect with our clients, our constant endeavor is always been to bring in relevant, interesting, and bold topics so that we are able to have this conversation and thereby enable and support our member organizations in their D&I journey. As part of the DIAN India Meeting 4, we are discussing the theme of changing world of work and its implications on our D&I strategies. Even as we're getting started for the session, so our panelists, our speakers for today already started talking about how the current situation is changing and how it's impacting the world of work. And more so, our focus today is going to be specific to how it is impacting our D&I strategy. How is this can help us in terms of improve our diversity representation? What is that we as organizations need to look at to be more inclusive of our diverse employees that we have in the organization? Um, Yesterday's session was all about understanding the caregiving needs of employees and how organizations can enable and empower caregivers in the workplace. So as you see, we designed this particular meeting in 3 different sessions. And yesterday was all about supporting employees uh, with their caregiving responsibilities. We deliberated on elder care, care for people with special needs, and pet care, gaining some interesting perspectives on how organizations really need to adapt to the changing needs of employees and update their policies, benefits, and programs to attract, develop, and retain the diverse talent in the workplace. And also, it's important to work towards creating an inclusive work environment for all. And it was very heartwarming and interesting to see that most of the attendees that we had yesterday, they say that these are, especially when it comes to supporting persons with disabilities or pet care, which we were talking about for the first time, how it is also important to acknowledge that there are many of our employees who have pet care responsibilities and how we can be sensitive towards them. How is that we can really be inclusive of pet parents as well. So it was quite an interesting session, and we thoroughly enjoyed listening to our experts and having a wonderful conversation. And today again, so we are going to discuss another important topic, creating diverse and inclusive gig workforce. And again, tomorrow we have DIAN India Open House, which will focus on D&I trends for 2021 as you really start planning for 2021. As we get started, let me just share the agenda for today. So today, again, we have divided our entire session into 3 different sections, focusing from organization, program, and employee perspectives on gig economy. We will also have enough time for audience interactions. So I'm hopeful that we will have a very engaging and interactive Q&A session at the end of the session as well. So all of us are familiar and aware that we are using Zoom for today's meeting, and yeah, so we are so used to using the technology and joining virtual meetings now. But just a quick reminder, please keep your systems muted when you're not talking. Also, it would be nice when you're talking, have your camera on. And please use the chat as much as possible to interact with other participants and with our speakers for today. Um, Again, for any assistance that you need during the session, you can always reach out to my team here. And this is my wonderful team. So work tirelessly to drive all these programs and initiatives that we run from Community Business India and DIAN India specifically as well. And of course, so all this is possible with all these member companies that we have who are committed to diversity and inclusion, who constantly challenge us to look for new ways of supporting and enabling and really taking DNI to the next level. So we are delighted to have all of you representatives of these member companies join us for today's session. So now, coming to our topic for today, almost every prediction about the future of work, any report that you read, it mentions flexibility in the way we work. Flexible work includes not just traditional employees getting the flexibility to work from home, but also gig work and gig workers. Let us start by understanding what is gig economy. I'm sure the experts will share more insight. I just want to give a kind of a quick overview of what it is. So it's a shift from full-time 9 to 5 job to an on-demand, freelance and task-based economy. Gig economy can be defined as a work engagement where on one side, so you have, there is a service seeker, that's a consumer with a demand for a specific task. On the other side, there is a service provider. So more in a kind of a formal way, how this entire gig work happens. In this economy, tech-enabled platforms connect the consumer to the gig worker to hire those services on a short-term basis. Gig workers include self-employed, freelancers, independent contributors, and part-time workers. It's expanding from what started as something for a less skilled services, more like Ola, Uber, to more skilled jobs as well. So today there is a need and there is a growing market for more skilled jobs as well. As organizations adapt to the changing workplace and workforce dynamics, they have accelerated the adoption of independent talent to really drive business agility. Hence, gig economy has a huge potential here in India. It is a great opportunity for organizations to bring in diverse talent and improve diversity representation across levels. As gig economy continues to grow, it's important to understand the needs of gig workers, address dissonance, if any, between the ways full-time employees and gig workers are managed so that we are able to create an efficient workforce holistically where gig workers feel included and belong. And that ultimately is our objective. To explore this topic further, so we have an interesting set of speakers today, excellent experts. So I'll now invite Kapila Jaikumar, Program Manager from my team, to moderate the speaker sessions. Over to you, Kapila.
Thank you so much, Vijaya, and welcome everyone to this day 2 of the DIAN India meeting, where we're going to share more insights about the gig economy. Vijaya just talked about the tip of the iceberg, but we have our expert speakers who's going to talk more about this on how it's going to shape the future of work. So the next 80 minutes or so, we're going to be engaging and interesting. And since we have a very interesting lineup of speakers who are going to share their expertise on this topic, we have a dedicated question and answer session you saw on the agenda. So please keep your questions coming in on that chat box, and we'll see how best we can help you answer all of them. Yeah. With that, I'm delighted to invite our first speaker for today, Harjeet Kanduja. Thank you so much for joining us. Harjeet is Vice President, Human Resources at Reliance Jio. Harjeet is an international speaker, author, poet, visionary, influencer, and an HR leader. He is an alumnus of the IIT Roorkee and INSEAD. He is SAP HCM consultant, Six Sigma Green Belt, and assessor of Predictive Index. He has 2 established patents, and his book, Nothing About Business. So for people, I'm going to repeat his book, Nothing About Business, was the bestseller on Amazon. So go grab your copy. He has also been confirmed with the HR Leadership Award, Pride of Nation Award, HR Personality of the Year, Global Digital Ambassador, and Global Learning Award. Wow. Congratulations, Harjeet, on all of that. Harjeet has also been a LinkedIn profile, power profile. He's a TEDx speaker. He is a guest faculty at IIM Ahmedabad, board member of Federation of World Academics, member of CII, HR, IR committee, and co-chair of NASSCOM Diversity Committee. So with that, I welcome you, Harjeet. The stage is all set and you can take over.
Thank you, Kapila. So good to see you guys and so good to be there with you. I have a small presentation. Before I start, I would like you to give me a huge round of applause. Yeah, there is a emoji button at the bottom. You can actually press that also. So applause will keep coming to me. Look, I do this beforehand because afterwards there is no guarantee. So today we are going to talk about gig economy. And you would have seen what I have put here. This is where the origin of gig came from. So if you look at music industry, if you look at entire film industry, they work on projects. There is no permanent employment. It is a contract between the artist and the producer, and that's how the work happens. So uh, look, when we started, Vijaya gave you the entire definition. I am not going to give you anything new. I'm going to repeat the same thing, but with my perspective. And before we move forward, uh, there is a statutory warning. Uh, I am a movie buff, so this presentation has movie references. If you are not going to movies, you might lose out on something. So you can search Google simultaneously and see. Image copyrights are with the owners, and this is being used for educational purposes. So, what is gig? And I actually started reading what is gig, what actually gig means. First thing is, it is not a job. And why I chose this, it is not Ola or it is not Uber. It is Ola and Uber. So you can choose what time I want to drive Ola, what time I want to drive Uber, or what time I want to sit back and relax. So how to project it? It is you are making somebody an entrepreneur. That is what gig is all about. If you see accountants, they are CA professionals. They sit in a free market system and they say, I am there to provide you services. If you want my services, come take my services and pay me money for the services which I am delivering to you. Here, there is no employment, but what you are doing is with your services, you are going to the market. Upwork is very similar to what they are doing without Upwork for years. And these jobs are flexible. What has started happening is there are professional companies which bring together these professionals, urban company or urban club, which we used to say. Whatever unorganized market was, they have started bringing those people together and they're saying, okay, you go provide these services, interact with the customer, take money, and that assignment is over. So if you're working for 4 hours, take money for 4 hours, or if you're serving 10 clients, take money for 10 clients. We are not putting restriction of hours on you, whether it is a 8-hour job or a 12-hour job or a 16-hour job. How many hours you want to work is totally up to you. The thing is, why is gig the future? Here I'm going to take you on a journey that what has happened in past so many years. Look, we as a society, we were there in Doordarshan. So there was no option. We used to watch from morning to evening whatever was telecasted on Doordarshan. That was like Sarkari Naukri. That one job, 9 to 5, and one channel for life. That is how the life was. And then the life changed. And there came so many channels. Here, what was happening was that you had that remote. You can change the channel. You can define what I want to see. These were like private jobs. You don't like one job? Okay, you can have another. And then what changed was there was something like Netflix which came, which said, no, you don't only have choice of channel, you have choice of time also. It is not that 9 baj gaye kya, so you have to sit at 9 o'clock and watch that serial. You can watch at your own time. Nothing is, then society demands if I can watch my channel at my time, then why can't I work at my time? And that is where gig economy is creeping in, because now people want to work at their own time because our society has changed that way. You might be thinking that I am joking, I have got a coincidence and I am stretching that coincidence. No, that's not the case. I will give you another example. So, you know this was the process of finding the wife, Viva. And that was the method of sourcing the right talent. So the entire family used to go and source the right talent, and you have to spend the whole life with that talent. Then what came was this concept of friends with benefits. This is gig work. Here, there are benefits, there are flexibilities, no strings attached. This is kind of a luka chippy, a live-in kind of a culture which is getting set in. And same is getting set in into jobs. And why it is happening, I could have put a image of Tinder here, but intentionally I put Airbnb so that you can understand that Tinder, Airbnb, Uber, Urban Clap, all are same. And it is binding our society. This is because there is an emergence of platforms. All of us are skilled, all of us have skills. Now, earlier what used to happen was we were also supposed to have that skill of selling our talent. With platforms coming in, that selling part is taken away. So whatever I am good at, I can actually do that without having selling skills or so. And that emergence of platforms is giving that boost to gig economy. The point is, why now? And you must be thinking, why am I asking these questions? Kapila wrote these questions and sent it to me that you have to answer these questions. Otherwise, I will disconnect you. I said, okay, fine. So what Gartner has observed is that pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, there is an increase in remote work. It has increased by 41%. And this study was somewhere in April. After that, I did further research to find out what is happening right now. So what we understand is that out of this 41%, when the lockdown opened up, 33% is still working remote. And there is an overall population of 57%, which includes remote work, that is doing telecommuting. The difference between telecommuting and remote work is that in telecommuting, you are told that you have to be in a particular city or in a particular state for doing remote work, and you can be called to office at any point in time for training or for any kind of meetings or for client interaction. So that is the difference between remote working and remote working. Nobody bothers you. You are working from anywhere in the country, doesn't matter much. And if you see, with work from home happening, there is 115% growth which has happened in gig work from home. So work from home has given a boost to the gig workforce, that if you can work from home, then does it matter that you are my employee or you are working on a contract with a deliverable? The problem with work from home is, this is the infrastructure you have in a typically Mumbai home, where there is a small room and there are 3 family members. So infrastructure is a big issue. And that is when companies started realizing, should we do work from home or should we allow work from hometown? Because if workspace is a constraint, let's solve that. So that is the emergence of work from hometown concept and remote work concept. Third is, now this is an important piece of gig workforce. The difference between gig workforce, I was looking at, there are casual laborers and contract laborers. What is the difference between casual labor and contract labor? casual labor doesn't have exclusivity, and contract labor has exclusivity, and that is why they come under government norms. Here, when people are working from home, companies had their serious doubts whether there is an exclusivity or not. And that is why those contracts started turning into gig contracts, that I want my job done, whether you are working for 2 companies or 3 companies, doesn't matter to me. So these are trust issues because of which uh, people started working more on the jobs, and that was the emergence of uh, another thing which companies realized during the pandemic, and this is also research from Gartner, that the critical roles which companies used to identify, those roles have shrinked. Earlier, anyone who is with critical skills, anyone who is in a critical workflow role, or anyone who is in a critical strategic position, we used to say everyone is critical. And then suddenly, companies came to an understanding, no, everything is not critical. There is a small part of people who are critical to the success of business, and rest everything we can actually focus on outsourcing. And another thing is, you would have seen kuch kuch hota hai. So here, companies have a mindset of creating a backup. In this pandemic situation, if you create a backup, that is good for business continuity. And I'm not joking. Why I'm not joking? Because Australia Post is doing this for years. What they do is, if their permanent employees don't turn up to work, they send SMSs to the people around the vicinity where they need people, and those people report for gig work on their own, and they use their services to deliver post or to process post. Now let's understand in Indian environment, there what types of gig force is there. So Indian economy is like this. Uh, so there is a gig force which is very elegant, and there is a gig force which is say on the ground. We were talking about casual labor. If you see one kind of gig force is, you would have seen this Wednesday. I'm not showing you Anupam Kher. I'm showing you the person sitting next to him. He was the hacker who was called. See, at that point in time, they were using hackers, and this was what? This was use of gig workforce, having contracts with those people and bringing them for short-term assignments. And second is casual labor. We were talking about why gig force now. So government has relaxed some norms. Now you can use casual workforce instead of 9 hours to 12 hours. You don't have to give minimum wages. Safety norms have been relaxed. Firing is easy. Uh, the number of hours they are working, that also ranges between 55 to 58 hours. All these things are giving boost to engaging casual labor on the manufacturing side. Now thing is, question to all of you, do you use gig workforce? Stop thinking. Answer is yes. If you are engaging doctors, so you might not be having permanent doctors. You might be engaging somebody from the hospital to come, or somebody independent doctor coming as a consultant, or 2 days in a week. That is one way of engaging as the organization, how we are working on engaging this workforce. In fact, doctors you can find on Practo. That is another platform which has come in for retail. For companies, that is how we engage. And it is not only doctors we engage lawyers also. When we have to fight cases in the court, we bring in those lawyers and we say, okay, fight this case for me. This is a short-term assignment, which is a gig assignment. And interestingly, lawyers also has a platform for retail, which is called Lawyered or Loreto. All these platforms are available where you can actually find lawyers, and for your city, for the kind of case you want to run. Sales. LIC has been running this program for years. This is purely a gig contract. We have heard about MWay. MWay talks about multi-level marketing. They have been engaging gig workforce for years, and it is not only MWay. There are multiple companies in this particular space of um, personal health or personal health products like Modi Care or Oriflame or Forever Living. They use this kind of workforce. And you must be thinking, okay, if they are using workforce, the one of the concerns with this workforce is that not everyone performs. If you are having an employee, you can actually push employees to make sure that everyone is performing to some level. Here, you don't have any control. Flexibility is there. Interestingly, 45% of them, 45% of uh, the new employees which they hire, they do more than 1 lakh business per month. That is what the norm in this particular industry is. So if you're hiring gig workforce or if you're registering gig workforce, you can expect that it is going to be somewhere between 30 to 50% based on what kind of incentives you are putting or what kind of engagement you are doing. Sector wise adoption, if you see, uh, right now ITITES is high on it. Second is services, then manufacturing, then BFSI, and then FMCG pharma. As far as engagement of workforce, gig workforce is concerned, what you will see, and this is a survey which I picked up from Economic Times, there is going to be a sharp rise in FMCG pharma segment. That is what they're predicting, and we are talking about 2 to 3 years. In next 2 to 3 years, you will see a difference in FMCG pharma, BFSI. Manufacturing is going to increase significantly, and there will be some rise in services. IT is already there, so not much. 45% of companies, of the total companies which are there, which were surveyed, are using Gig Force, and this number is going to go up to 65% in the near future. Who has been driving gig? So and there is a platform called Flexing. So Flexing has been talking about it, that initially in 2016 when we were talking about this in India, it was the startups which were driving this, and now it is professional services companies or corporates. These companies are expanding in this area of using gig workforce, and that is why we are discussing gig workforce in this forum also. Point is how to embrace gig workforce. So I'm not going to talk about contracts. I'm going to talk about a broad phenomena. Like if you look at this advertisement, this is a supply chain job. You have to deliver something. In fact, I got an opportunity to sit in a pink cab. It was a lady who was driving pink cab. So I asked her, how come you got into driving? So she told me that few people came to our community and they gave us an opportunity to learn the skill of driving. So they made us learn driving, and after that they gave us cabs, and after that uh, we knew how to drive, and then we got into pink cabs. Point is, you have to invest in building the kind of skill set you are looking for. Swiggy and Zomato has done that, and it is a home delivery job, but look at the advertisement, they have made it aspirational. That is where your skill comes. You would have seen Spider-Man delivering pizza. This works on the mindset. You are making pizza delivery an aspirational job. Look, a superhero does this. So it is not about how what kind of job you're offering. It is about how you're packaging that job and how you're presenting that job. That is the success of gig. If you're not able to present it well, if you say, okay, this is a job which no one wants to do, and so we are pushing it out, it will not work. If you make it aspirational, people will die for it. And definitely you will have to upgrade your systems. Without upgrading systems, like we discussed earlier, that is the key to this entire gig force thing. If your systems are better, Right now you must be thinking about, okay, this is how my hiring system is, or this is how my employee system is, this is how my productivity system is or incentive system is. You have to bring this on a platform for you to handle the kind of volume it offers. What are the hot gig skills? And this is based on a study on 2000 companies who use gig workforce. So one is strategy, go to market, PMO, if you're doing growth planning, those kind of things, uh, technology, data analytics, product management, project management, marketing, if you're doing brand launch or brand planning, or uh, marcom or external communication or digital strategy if you want to make. In fact, finance and HR are also great areas for gig, where interim CFOs are being hired by companies. Interim HR heads are also hired by companies, preparing a business case, modeling, valuation, taking it to investors for raising money. So those kind of jobs are there in finance, and in HR, OD, engagement, compensation, strategy, policies. So there is enough and more which you can think of when you're thinking about starting something in your own company as a gig venture. You can try out with these jobs. Uh, so this was something which Kapila specifically asked me in the last meeting, that talk about gig models. Look, gig models are simple. Suppose if you have to go in an auto rickshaw, so how you can engage that auto rickshaw driver? You can say, okay, I want to go to that place. Uh, how much money you will take? So the guy says 50 rupees. So that is one model, which is fixed fee model. Another is, will you go by meter? So that is piece rate, that whatever consumption you are making, based on that, I'm going to pay you. The third model is, let's talk on hourly basis. For 1 hour, how much you will take? If I, whatever way, if I use you for 4 hours, so you would have seen those cab companies say 4 hours or 40 kilometers. So it is the same model. That is a combo actually. And another is, if you drive well, if there are no bumps, if you drive as per my convenience, then I will pay you 20 rupees extra. These are the four models, and then you can do combinations of these models. Same thing applies in gig. So you can use any of those models. Then let's come to the topic for which we are here, diversity and inclusion. I don't have too many slides on this, but I believe the one slide I have is very, very powerful slide. Look, in the formal environment, the participation of women is 26%. And in gig, this engagement of women is 50%. Second is, the pay gap in this gig workforce is much narrower than the pay gap in the formal environment, in the formal engagement. Another important piece is that uh, the total number of women which are coming in gig workforce, that has increased over years. So last year, if it was 48,000 women coming into this workforce, this year it has become 68,000 women who have come into this workforce. The sources, Team Leads and Better Place, who are doing this. So this is heartening to see. There are many kinds of research which are available. So um, this is and this is one piece of research which truly represented that how gig workforce is promoting diversity. And why it is promoting diversity, because you are no more seeing employees as your slaves, that I own this guy. So moment you get out of that mindset and you are focused on outcome, this is what I am expecting wherever you are, whatever you are, then automatically diversity creeps in. And that is the fundamental of diversity. I believe that's what I have to talk about. Thank you so much, and keep in touch.
Wow, Harjeet, thank you so much for sharing us such a wonderful, easy presentation, making us understand gig economy so well. So, round of applause was truly, truly a great way to start, because that's a great way to end your presentation as well. I'm sure, like Harjeet asked, there's an emoticon reaction there. Please go ahead and clap and applaud for him, because right from the analogies to the movies, right? I'm like a huge movie buff, so I was like smiling at everything. And so I saw so many others. The other speakers are also smiling just like me. And thank you so much for sharing that, because this kind of made all of us, or the participants that we're here today, to understand gig and how does that actually. And this, you really brought us and took us where we actually started using gig way back, right? And that's now, it's now in our mind, and then we're going to think more and more about it. So thank you so much, Harjeet.
Thank you,
Quickly,
Kapila.
I'm going to talk about how gig economy is growing, and we have many examples, just like Harjeet shared some with us. There are some best practices showcasing how organizations are adopting gig working. So I'm just going to share with you what Axis Bank recently did. They recently launched their new hiring initiative, Giga Opportunities, right? That's a working model to attract diverse, skilled talent, and the aim was to hire about 1,000 plus gig workers. And what they said was this, with a promise, to grow with flexibility, diversity, and inclusion. And what they hope to do is to reach that 15% incremental hiring in alternate work models over the next 3 years. That's their target, to leverage and drive this increased diversity in this talent pool. So I'm closer to home. We have EY, one of our DIAN India member companies, who's embarked on this wonderful journey much earlier with Gig Now, to prepare a workforce and business for future of work. And we are delighted to be joined by Gopal A. Iyer, Associate Director, Talent, EY and Gig Now Program Lead, to share how organizations are leveraging this gig economy as an opportunity to attract and grow diverse talent. I'd now like to invite our second speaker for today. Gopal is a seasoned talent leader with over 17 years of experience working with large multinational organizations across various industries and geographies. Currently with EYJDS, Gopal leads the Gig Now, a program which is very specific focus on attracting and engaging with people of gig assignments at EYGDS. He is a speaker in various HR forums and has spoken on numerous topics like the future skills in the world of HR, the future of work, the rise of the gig economy, the relevance of current skills. He is a strategic management postgraduate from the Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode, global HR professional and certified career transition coach. So welcome on board, Gopal, and the stage is all yours. So take it on from here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's going to be a tough one for me to present my slides after Harjeet, especially. I'm a movie buff myself, and I just couldn't stop myself from looking at all the interesting pictures that he shared. But I'm going to do my bit. Let me pull that up. Just give me a second. Are you all able to see it, Kapila? Can you just confirm that, please?
Yes, yes, we can.
Brilliant.
Put it on. Yeah, there you go. Super.
Great. So I think Harjeet brought in a very phenomenal perspective about what talent is today in terms of how we should be looking at talent. And what we kept looking at was today we end up acquiring talent for everything that we do. The world around us, including ourselves, when we look at how have we started behaving, we have stopped acquiring stuff to starting to consume stuff. So for example, do I need to buy a house today is a question that every millennial or everyone today asks, because the cost of acquisition and probably the asset, the way it is, may not be a smarter thing to acquire. It may be a smarter thing for us to consume, and which is why we see a lot of people renting out assets. It could be a house, it could be a car, it could be when you go to your vacation, and all of that. So now when we look at talent in that lens, I think it's extremely interesting for us to look at and ask ourselves this question. We were always looking at talent from, oh, whether this person is in this city, or oh, whether this person has so much qualifications. Today we have, with the digitization of talent pool, access to talent pool that has now become a talent ocean, isn't it? So with that, I think I will get into the specifics of how we reached here, right? Um, as Harjeet mentioned, I think we've always seen the world of work, especially in the corporate sphere. In We started off with IT outsourcing way back, and I think it was into traditional IT outsourcing, moved into remote infrastructure management, and then now I think we all consume infrastructure as service or platform as service. Platform as a service is a classic example we can take of Swiggy, Ola, Uber, Urban Clap, and so on, right? Application data management was traditionally done via legacy waterfall methodology. We suddenly started seeing a lot of open source, modern, and agile methods. And then we started shifting into software as a service, right? Business process outsourcing. We all started with, I mean, I started my career as a call center agent way back in 2003. I was an employee of the organization. Today, I think most of the organizations look at moving it. I mean, there was an industrialization happened, which then also meant that we would pay people for outcomes that they are working for. And it eventually moved into platform BPO. People, you and I, everyone on the call, were always on site, sitting in the offices. We started doing a bit of remote working in the last 7 to 8 years as the connectivity improved. The cost of cost of offices increased quite a bit, and then eventually we also looked at alternative models of contracting. But today we're all on cloud. We don't really need to wait to engage with people in office. It's collaborative tools like Zoom, Teams, WebEx that allows us to make it easier to connect with people. Um, as Even from a contracting perspective, right? I think way back in 2000, when the Y2K happened, um, probably when we started seeing a lot of people having being hired really in high numbers, suddenly there was not much business for a lot of organizations. Many organizations started looking at staff augmentation as a way of doing business. And we typically would see on-premise staff augmentation, where we would have contracting with on for resources. That shifted from outtasking, where I would probably manage tasks and workloads versus purely just looking at it from a resources standpoint. Again, we saw a shift from that to now becoming a lot more mature to say, I would have an SOW or an SLA or a KPI driven contracting, where I would give them book of services. If you see Amazon today, it's nothing but looking at crowdsourcing the work. And if you look at Amazon.com, go to the app, you'll see a lot of services, and you will see a lot of offerings, and you'll pick it up from there and hire a vendor who could then deliver the services for you. Uh, you don't need to be 100% on premise. You could probably have a bit of off premise, which means virtual talent as well. Today, with platforms as much as advanced they are, and Harjeet also gave us a great insights into Swiggy and several of those. Uber is classic example again. I think Uberization of talent started so much so in 2010, 12 onwards, at least in India. What we started doing was we started giving tasks, subtasks, microservices to the crowdsourcing platform vendors and freelancers and larger communities. A classic example I would like to quote here is RPO. If you were to take that as an example, recruitment was a function that was done predominantly in-house. Today, you break down that recruitment function and say, okay, can you source these many profiles for me? I will pay you per profile this much rupees. Can you schedule interviews for me? I will pay you this many rupees for each of the scheduling that you do. Or accounts payable, for every invoice that you process, I will pay you this much. And I think that has resulted into a lot more newer models coming in, where you start, and again, need not be in on-premise. It could be predominantly remote, very little on-premise as well. But we have also evolved to a model where we have now come to a stage where we engage on demand. We don't need to really hire this person. Uh, I have seasons in the business. I could probably need this person only for these many hours in that week, and probably pay him or her as you go, right? And that's what has been happening in the contracting models as well. Now, a quick short story, a personal one. My mom used to work in Central Railways, and if I were to look at when she started her career in 1970s, railways was a big family of everyone being employee, and my mom was incidentally into running payroll for the employees in Central Railway Division. So she used to get at times ledgers to sit at home and work on the paychecks and pay stubs, and she used to give me classifications of employees, which she would say class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. And I remember that, and I feel, and I think it was predominantly a traditional hiring model. It was a demand model where we would always look at, okay, how many trains do I need to ply in this season, and I would hire people. uh, there was a great amount of predictability in the way trains were run as well, because you would not require a train every day in a year, but you would have spikes during summer vacations, Diwali vacations, Dasera vacations, and you can predict that much piece. But what started happening ever since 1980s was the young generation crowds, as they started migrating a lot more to cities. It meant that you had to ply a lot more trains, so the demand started increasing, which meant that they had to keep up to the pace of what was happening with the changing India and with liberalization happening. A classic example that I would like to quote here is when Konkan Railway was set up, it was not set up with everybody being hired as Indian Railway employees. It was a PPP, right? Public private partnership. What it meant was we had access to best in class talent, engineers, equipments, automation, and all of that. So it was then no longer full timers. It was also part timers. It was also consultants. It was also freelancers. And we were slowly shifting. And all of that was because we wanted more agility. We wanted more speed. We wanted more collaboration. When digitization started happening, we started seeing that the ticketing houses, ticketing places started moving out into cloud. IRCTC came in. And today, IRCTC runs not only the ticketing, but a lot more services, which means the talent today sits on the cloud. When I say cloud, I mean, it means virtual. And you don't need to, I mean, you don't know who's booking your ticket. You don't need to go to a ticket counter to book your ticket. And it can happen any point of time. Earlier, you had to wait for 8 a.m. for the ticket counter to open up. It could then go up till 8 p.m. Today, you can book tickets as early as 4 a.m. and as late as 11:30 p.m. And I think if you look at all of the services as well, be it the signaling systems, be it the tracking systems, today there is a lot more partnership with that of an L&T, Komatsu, and so on when it comes to running the railways shop. So I think we have moved in from being a traditional hiring model to virtualization already. And I think all what we are now talking about is this is a phenomenon that is driving gig economy to this extent that we are seeing happening around us today. And I think even as behaviors of an individual, I would buy stuff only for a shorter period of time. Now, my houses, typically I would own it for 5 to 10 years. I would typically go to buy another house in the next decade. Cars maybe 5 years, mobiles maybe 18 months. And I think every time we need something better for the price that we pay. And I think that is the emphasis that is now also impacting on the talent. And I think that is what is driving gig economy adoption across organizations as well, right? So now talk about people. What we heard, and this is what we keep hearing every global people survey that we do, right? Everybody wants flexibility. Everybody wants meaningful career opportunities. Everybody wants adaptive work environment, which is focused on culture. We all love adaptive learning opportunities. We don't want to be sitting in classrooms and listening to lectures. We want learning on demand. It should be on mobile apps. It should be any time when I need to learn, right? We love empowerment. We love fluid personal development. Feedback has to be instant. It cannot be at the end of the year. Um, Exchange of values, experiential learning. Can I afford to be learning from someone who's not a trainer? Yes, absolutely. Mentoring, coaching has come up as a big way to learn from people as well. And every organization has realized that if we don't really invest in our people and give them meaningful experiences, we can't afford to have a better customer experience, isn't it? And what this also means is there is a great amount of flexibility, change that people are expecting us to have as well within the organization, right? That's where gig economy comes into picture. This is not new, as Harjeet also mentioned, right? I mean, if I were to look at painting a picture here again, I am born and brought up in Mumbai. I mean, we say suburb in Mumbai, which is a place called Dombivli. And one side that I always get to remember is every morning when I used to go to the railway station, I would see queue of auto rickshaws, a lot of people standing in there for daily labor work. What happened today? Ola replaced auto rickshaw drivers with autos on Ola. Urban Clap replaced your labor workforce, where you started getting people on demand when you need. So you don't need a middleman anymore. You don't need a union anymore to get the work done for yourself, right? You can do, as a consumer, I can go to download an app, get the work done, pay the person the fee. I don't need to rely on cash as well. And I think it's truly the cashless economy that is what we are trying to see right now. And it's all happening a lot more because of digital platforms. And why did digital platforms started happening? It's because of the way the country like India is getting connected today. I think since 2012, with high-speed internet, 3G, 4G, 5G now, and FiberNet across all the cities and villages as well, platform online consumption of data, online doing of business has become a lot more easier, which is what is fueling the growth of gig economy, and which is what is fueling the growth of platforms as well. We see a lot of platforms come in. Um, just a bit of stats, and I think I would leave it for people to look at and read through. It's available in public media, but the potential that gig economy has is up to the tune of 1.5 trillion. India alone has approximately 455 billion worth of business over next 3 years. And another number is freelancing websites in the last 12 months in itself has seen 50% increase in signups. And it could be a result of the fact that people probably got laid off. It probably people wanted to take a break, and people wanted to do several other things. So I think this is what is happening as we all see around the world, and of course in India as well. And I think we are betting really big on this. And what we feel is, like how our parents, my mom never touched laptop, never touched desktop, but she is an avid YouTube consumer, a great WhatsApp professional, I would say as well. So, unlike other countries where they went from full-time employment to gig and contracting, we would directly leapfrog to gig a lot more quicker than the world expects us to. And I think we have all the traits and potential that can make it happen much quicker. So it's more than a passing trend, right? Isn't it? I think what we have seen is, from a business perspective, we get talent on demand, high quality. The focus is on skills again, not so much on how many years of experience that you bring in. You get talent pool across all generations. So if you think this requires someone with 55 years of age and 30 years of experience, so be it. Let's get this person onboarded as consultant. You get to hire faster because you tap into talent. You're always on the lookout, right? It's similar as you going and turning on your Uber app. You say, I want to go from point A to point B. The Uber app always is on the lookout for who's a driver nearest to you, and platform does that job for you. You get to use the gig resources, and you also get significant savings out of it, because you're not hiring this person or acquiring this person for a longer duration. It's pay as you go, pay for the services that the person has been able to do. And in COVID, what has been a realization for most of the businesses is cash is king, right? How can we improve business resilience through looking at various models of employment? And I think gig happens to be one of the most easily adoptable model. And I think the proudest aspect of that is the fact that the government of India recognizes this. And I mean, even the newest social security code that we just saw recognizes platform workers and gig workers, and they have included these terms in the paper, and very soon it will be an act as well. So I think that's the recognition that gig working is getting, and we will we will want to believe that it is more than just a passing trend. Gig workers at the end of the day love it as well. They have the autonomy, they get the empowerment, they get the financial stability, and they have the work-life balance as well. So I think it's a win-win for both professionals as well as businesses, and I think it's extremely important for us to make the best use of this. Now, one last thing more about from a DNI perspective. When we started this program in 2019 February, I think one of our focus areas was how do we make this program a lot more inclusive. And when we started talking to women, I think women and probably even people with disabilities and neurodiverse talent, one of the realizations was organizations today have to evolve their hiring practices to make it more inclusive, not because they have not been inclusive, but ask women today what they want. And I think everybody, especially women in India today, prefer flexible working, not the 9 to 5 or not the 9 to 9 work, because the way we have designed our labor workforce, and I think the socioeconomic construct also, I think women prefer to be working for 5 to 6 hours in a day. And is our employment model flexible enough to get people on that model? I think gig allows you to do that. Gig allows you to engage with people 3 hours in a day, 4 hours in a day, 3 days in a week, or maybe 2 months in a year. And I think you just want to make use of that aspect as well. When I also talk about people with disabilities, one of the biggest challenges that we have seen, especially around people with disabilities, is that they are unsure as well. Like, as much as we are unsure whether this will work for us, they are unsure whether this will work for them. Gig allows them to try this model and see if this is the right thing for them. And I think it proves out to be win-win for all the categories of DNI as well. Now, talking about culture, and I think we often get asked two broad things. What about culture of the organization when gig comes in? And and I think what we have seen is by getting in people with diverse cultures, we end up becoming an organization that is a lot more open, a lot more flexible, open to innovate, and are willing to go that extra mile to be able to get the best or be the best in the industry. And I think that's what is something that we need to work towards as well. And while you do that, also try and get a culture of belonging. And we have always worked a lot on creating a sense of belonging amongst all our people, not with a view that we want to make them feel like an employee at the end of the day, but even from a perspective of giving respect to their ideas, giving respect to who they are as individuals, and create a sense of belonging at the end of the day for them to be their best while they are with us. So I think that's what I have for today in terms of quick presentation. I'll take I would stop sharing and be open to take any questions if there are any.
Sure, Gopal. Thank you so much. I mean, brilliant, the way you explain the concepts and why it's beneficial for organizations, why it's a win-win for gig workers as well. So thank you for that. We're just going to wait till we
Sure.
have our third speaker finish, and then we'll take the question and answers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll just ask the audience to keep those questions coming in. We already see a couple of them already on the chat. We will answer them. We just give us one more speaker to opportunity for the speaker to give his perspectives and share his perspectives, and then we'll be open with the questions. Yeah. So just quickly, we've heard about gig working from organizational perspectives. Let's now hear what it means to be a gig worker. We are joined now by our third speaker for today, Punyabrata Sen, gig consultant at EY, and shares his experience as a gig worker. Welcome, Punyabrata. Just quickly sharing about Punyabrata. He is a practice professional with comprehensive experience in strategy development, cost modeling and pricing, change management and business transformation, business modeling and organizational design, leading to enhancing overall organizational efficiency through strategic business performance management. Punyabrata has been a member of the business consulting practice for Ernst & Young, Middle East and North Africa. He was subsequently appointed by the government of the Sultanate of Oman in a personal capacity in various roles and responsibilities. He also has the distinction of serving as a member of the board of directors of the Oman Electricity Transmission Company. Since his return to India in October 2018, Punyabrata has mentored and advised a startup in the electronic space and is currently chief mentor with 4 startups in different domains. Punyabrata is currently associated with Ernst Young as a gig consultant and with T-Hub Hyderabad as the chief mentor, as well as the mentor of change with Atal Innovation Mission, which is the Niti Yoga. Welcome, Punyabrata, Sen, if I can call you that. This is for you to share your experience, and I'm leaving this up to you now.
Thank you, Kapila. That was fantastic. I don't think I need to add anything more to what you said. I have to pull up the questions that you sent me. The first question is, who am I? You said it all, Kapila. I'll just condense it to a very short sentence. I try to make people happy by delivering on their dreams and ideas through designing their ventures. Now, what motivated me to be a gig worker? Now, that's a very interesting question, and I'll take you back a while in time. I grew up in the mountains, and one of the things when I used to go to school, and that was like when I was 9, 10 years old, was accompany my granduncle to the bazaar to buy vegetables and stuff like that. And there I was, and I was generally there, the mule, to carry the load. And you guessed it right. On one of the days, we went to buy some potatoes, and there was this young lady sitting there and writing something on a notebook. So my granduncle asked her, "Child, which class do you study in?" And she smiled, and that image has stayed with me over all these years. She smiled and she said, "No, sir, I'm writing my doctoral thesis." And there you have it, the perfect definition of a gig work. She was helping out in the family business, selling potatoes and onions while writing the doctoral thesis. And that, I believe, is the power of gig. So as I went through my life, I said, man, come on, I don't want to keep on listening to what people tell me. Do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. Come on time, go on time, whatever it is. You know? I wanted to be like that young lady. And here I am like the young lady. I'm not writing a doctoral thesis, okay? I'm not selling potatoes, but okay, near enough. Now, how does it differ from a regular employment? First of all, I learned that I had a choice. So I could choose what to do and not to do. I also learned that I could take charge of my own development. I also learned that I could do what I loved to do. You know, otherwise what happens in a regular employment, you say that, I want to go on a 4-week holiday. A boss turns around and says, what, 4-week holiday? You must be kidding me, man. I'll give you a 4-hour off if you have something to do. You know, in a gig work, you have that flexibility. You can make that choice. That, I think, is one of the biggest, and we are scared to make a choice. From the time we start going to school, we are taught, okay, don't have a choice. That's it. This is life. You do this, you get your 90% or 99 or 100% in your +2 exams, get into engineering, that's it, you don't have a choice. Fact of the matter is, we do have a choice. Just forget. And I think gig work reinforced that, the power of choice. So that sums up what a gig work's life could be. Empowerment. And what is empowerment? We talk about this word quite loosely. So empowerment, and if I can tell you all to just imagine a 2x2 sort of a matrix. On the x-axis, you have all the processes and rules and so on and so forth. And on the y-axis, you have freedom. And then you have low and high. And then you have low and high in freedom, low towards the zero axis, and low rules and regulations towards the zero axis, and high away from the zero axis. So when you have low procedures and low freedom, we are always constantly in a state of fear. It all depends on the guy which side of the bed he gets up in the morning. If we have a lot, very strict rules, procedures, and no freedom, we are in jail. That's where we are. And that's what happens in most of the work scenarios that happens in the world. The opposite, if you have a lot of freedom and no rules in place, chaos. So even the auto driver, which both Harjit and Gopal talked about, initially it was all chaos. Then they got together, made their own union or whatever, and now they went on to ULA. It's all organized. But empowerment happens when you have a high level of process, procedures, and rules, and a high level of freedom. That's when you're in the empowered zone. And I believe the gig working phenomenon actually empowers creativity, mastery, and the willingness, and that's very true, the word willingness, to contribute and to serve. And after going through life, I think that's what life is all about. So, one of the questions that Kapila wanted me to answer is, there are two questions. So, what can organizations do to make us feel more inclusive? That's a very good question. And frankly, you know, like I should have told you that to make us feel more inclusive, give us more freedom. Give us the freedom of being able to create, to do what we can do best. I think, and you have your rules and regulations, so on and so forth in place. And I think both Harjit and Gopal talked about the payment structure. So you go pay by hour, pay by outcome, pay by delivery, so on and so forth. I want to bring in a new perspective over here. Pay based on a partnership model, where you share the risks and you share the rewards. So the organization picks up some of the risks, the gig worker picks up the other risks, and you get rewarded accordingly. At the end of the day, you know, as Harjit said, you know, when you go for a vivav, when you go to marry, at the end of the day, you need that relationship to continue so that both of us benefit. And what's my last word for the organizations? Guys, very simple. I think we need to come into the 21st century and realize we are living in 2020, headed into 2021. We are not in 1920, which is where all these working schemes started off from. And lobby the compliance, because all jobs in India, whether it be full-time, part-time, gig, contractual, whatever, is according to the Income Tax Act 1961. Everything is structured around that. And now we have the GST as well. So there you go. Thank you, folks. Happy to take questions.
Super. Thank you so much, Pranayadatta. Freedom is that big word that's sitting in my head now. You know, to make work life much more meaningful for gig workers as well, and make you perform to the best of your abilities. So thank you again for that. And first of all, a round of applause for our lovely speakers today who helped us understand gig, what are the challenges, what should we be doing, what should organizations start picking up. So thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to get into the question and answer segment now. We already have two questions on the chat. This is directed to Harjeet, so we'll start with you, Harjeet. We have a question from Gayatri, I think, and she says, is there, sorry, I'm just going to pull that up again. Yeah, what are some of the out of ordinary examples that Reliance Jio is using as a gig workforce for? Oh, that was from Anvi. Goel, I'm sorry. I'll come back to Gayatri's question about age.
Sorry, Kapila,
I will put that on the chat for you. What are some of the out of ordinary examples that Reliance Jio is using gig force
I
for?
understand the question.
Oh, sorry.
What I'm saying is I don't talk about Reliance Jio on public forums. So
Okay.
I can talk about my experience.
Okay.
I can't talk about Reliance Jio. What I can tell you is, look, personally, I have tried this in many organizations for past 20 years. Because this is always an interesting model, and this model, if it works, it gives you a lot of advantages, but it is very difficult to pull this off the very first time. So it is not that every time I started I was able to pull it off. Even if I was able to pull it off in one organization, in the next organization, first time we started, we failed. One component which uh, which is very important is when you bring this workforce, expectation setting of the managers and training of the people who you are bringing in. Look, when Uber started this, for Uber it was easy because government was giving a certificate that this is your driving license, you know how to drive. But for the other skills, you don't have that certificate. So you have to train your people based on what your requirement is. And if you miss out on that training, or if you don't want to, if you shy away from investing in that training, then your model doesn't work. That is one piece. Second important aspect is that when you are trying out this model, uh, generally we think, oh, what does HR do? And do we need HR for these guys? Trust me, uh, Uber has a HR department for drivers. They don't have a call center for customers, but for drivers, they have a contact center. If a driver is in frustration that my incentive has not come in, or I have some problem and I want to leave, these people sit and take their calls and talk to them that, hey man, you are doing great and you should continue, and why you should continue. They decide your incentive structures which make them stick to the plan. They make sure their payments are coming in time. Look, these are the basic fundamentals of running the business. If you don't pay in time, this model will not work. If your incentives are not transparent, if they are not on platform that what money I am going to get, if you're running a scheme, most of the drivers, when I talk to them, they say, if it is not transparent, if I can't trust you, then I will not work for you. So this whole relationship works on how uh, how transparent you are, how fair you are, and how much care you give to the person. Like Punyabrata was saying, it is a relationship. Don't see this as, okay, there is a workforce sitting outside the organization and we will use it and throw it. It is not like that. It is still a relationship, and a very important relationship. You have to value that. Then only this model will work. Otherwise, this will not work.
Thank you, Harjeet. There's a follow-up question to that. I'll come back to Gayatri because Gayatri's quick question was, is there an age restriction for gig work? And I personally thought there was no restriction, but I would want to hear from you. And then we'll quickly go to the next question. Is there an age restriction?
Well, look at me. There you go.
I
All
was
right.
talking to one of the Uber drivers. He was like somewhere 60 years in age. So I asked him, why are you driving? So he told me, look, I reached the retirement age. So they retired me, but my responsibilities did not retire.
Hmm.
This is such a good company. They did not look at my age. They just looked at my skill and my ability to drive, and they gave me the job. Look, this is where that diversity and inclusion comes in. It is not some theoretical number based on which you are deciding whether the person will be able to do the job or not. You
Right.
are deciding based on skill, that whether you are able to deliver or not. So that is the best part of gig, that those rules which were created for some reason at that point in time, those might be relevant at that point in time. Right now it opens up. So
Right.
So I want to add to what Harjit said. And jokingly, I asked you all, look at me. Fact of the matter is, I am 60. And so there I am, diversity and inclusiveness, sitting in front of you, talking to you. There you go.
Thank you, Pranimata. There's one question for Harjit and then I'll take the others. Do you see a challenge that only specialist skills will end up being in demand in the gig economy vis-a-vis standard and non-specialist skills which you could bring, which would actually be done by regular employees or maybe technology such as a chatbot? That's a question from Indrajit to you, Harjit. I think Gopal and Punivrata can take that later as well.
Gopal,
Harjeet, do you want to take it or?
Gopal, you go ahead.
So no, I think as I said, at the end of the day, the skill of course drives the adoption of gig, which is the first way of looking at it. But when you bring in the crowdsourcing concept, when you talk about breaking the tasks down into different I mean if talk about a recruiter, and I shared that example as well, it is open to every kind of role, every kind of job, as long as it can be done by someone sitting somewhere. I mean, for a longest period of time we have never challenged ourselves to ask, do I need to hire people for this kind of role, or do I need to be able to get this done through maybe a crowdsourcing concept? Do I really need this person sitting next to me and get the work done, or can I get it done remotely? And a lot of organizations have started looking at that as a way of getting the business done as well. And it is not new. I mean, I think this concept is existing for the last maybe 20-25 years. I think it's just about us within the corporate world trying to look at adopting this a lot more openly. And yes, as Harjeet mentioned this, we need a strong technology background, which is a platform that facilitates the entire work. And as long as the platform is transparent, people will be more than happy to get the work done for you.
Thanks, Gopal. There's one more question to all the panelists. All organizations are investing in upskilling or creating learning opportunities for the team members in the gig workforce. How is the upskilling happening, and what is the role of organization that needs to be played in the gig workforce skill updation? Yes, Gopal, go for it.
So gig workers come by default with an entrepreneurial mindset, right? I mean, there is a research that says that 65% of gig workers on an average continue to upskill without even really looking at any kind of support. I mean, they'll do everything that is needed to be relevant for the work that they do.
Correct.
So that's anyways happening as much as we speak. Organizations, of course, also can offer learning opportunities. And today, I think we have technology collaborations where it makes courses through Udemy, Coursera, Upgrad, and the likes of it a lot more easily available. And at a very economical price point as well. So I think organizations can look at offering that if again it's something that they want to do, but predominantly gig workers really take care of themselves and of course take Udemy courses or other courses themselves as well.
If I may just add to what Gopal said, I said earlier that the gig working system makes me as a gig worker in control of my own learning and development. So I decide what I want to learn and what I want to develop as. And I think, that it comes back to my empowerment model of freedom and rules. So the organizations need to have a set of rules which people will adhere to, but have the freedom to take charge of their own development going forward.
Harjeet, you want to add something to that, or?
No, I'm good.
All right. If there are any other questions, please use the chat function. We have about a couple more minutes, and we really want you to make use of this opportunity to ask all you can while you have it.
Be a large chunk. So this is with the country of our size, for providing employment opportunities to so many people, gig is a very good thing to introduce.
Thank you so much, Harjeet. I think we are coming to our last minute before we need to wrap up.
There's one question from me.
For you, yes. You'd like to answer that, and then we can wrap up.
So I think the success of the program, learning and challenges. I think learning phenomenal. Every day is a learning. I think in terms of the newer models, the newer changes in the labor laws, people perceptions about gig economy and all of that. But I think from a challenge perspective, or rather, I would not call it as challenge. It's more an opportunity. Is to be able to change mindsets, and mindsets both within and outside the organization about the concept of gig. Most often the conversations that I've had so far, it becomes a tough one to sell a gig role to someone who has a full-time job. And it is very difficult to identify if this person has the right traits of becoming a successful gig worker. So I think it's a long journey for a country like us, as Harjeet said, where the aspiration is to, like, it used to be government jobs earlier. It is now private jobs, full-time jobs, the so-called security, which actually doesn't exist anymore for any one of us. How do we ensure that we sell the concept of gig, which translates into benefit for them, is something that we need to continue to work towards. And that's the journey that we are all on right now.
Thank you, Gopal. I think the gig economy is here firmly on its way to becoming a key part of corporate strategy. COVID-19 has only just given us a business and a new perspective on how we need to look at things differently. The previously what was impossible now has become an everyday reality, right? So for the gig economy, there are many bright future possibilities if the present is being used as something where we are laying the groundwork for. So it's important that the economy prepares itself to meet the demands of the new normal as and when it happens. The gig work models will continue to adapt, to innovate, and to expand and become a significant component of the future of work. Hence, as D&I professionals, HR business leaders, it's important for all of us to align our D&I strategies to effectively manage and include gig workers. We believe this session has helped provide a better understanding of gig economy and how it's shaping the future of work.